Hey guys, Shadowswolm here, and I'm here to present to you guys the League of Legends Week 7 of the 2014 Preseason 3-week champion rotation. Probably just, blah, blah, blah. Words are hard, guys, words are hard. But anyway, so, as usual with all the previous 3-week champion rotations, I'm going to go ahead and just list off the name of the champion, the amount of bot games I feel you guys should play, and the items you can expect to have and to see with these champions. Let's jump right into things, shall we? So we've got Shyvana, Amumu, Blitzcrank, Fiddlesticks, Jax, Malzahar, Brand, Zyra, Lucian, and Jinx. So, just from top to bottom, first we've got Shyvana, who's a very, very, very potent jungler. Scales ridiculously well with AD. She has one ability that scales with AP as far as I know, and that is her W. I believe it's her... No, I'm sorry, it's her E. It's her E. But, everything else scales with AD, and she's just a beast. Her Q pretty much resets her auto attack, and it's a ginormous burst damage ability. Much like Nasus's Siphon Strike, it's the same thing with Dragon Claw, or Dragon Bite. But, it's deadly, and can be used to just get you through the jungle relatively quickly. As I just stated, you'll be in the jungle with her mostly, and you'll see her, again, mostly in the jungle when you're fighting against her. She doesn't do so... I mean, she does rather decently in other, lanes, but primarily in the jungle is where she shines. Now, items you can expect to see on her would be stuff like a Trinity Force. I mean, yeah, she doesn't have mana, but that's actually kind of standard on her, almost. It's a little, it's a little off the beaten path, but not too far that you're just like, where am I? Other items would be stuff like a Warmogs would be good, a Frozen Mallet's always good for her. Anything that really kind of adds health and damage. Again, with her, it's more just kind of like other champions I've covered in the past. You want that high armor, magic resist, health, and damage. You don't really go for crit. If your attack damage is over 200, you're good. If your health is over 2.4k, 2.5k, you're good. And if your armor and magic resist are at least, 90 apiece, you're good. Considering your passive, or your ult passive, gives you a buff to your armor and magic resist, I believe. It's damn good. But, she's one of those champions where she can really just turn the tide of a fight with her ult. Because if you run in melee and then ult, drag the enemies back with you towards your allies, that sets up a pretty nasty, good wombo combo with other champions. But that's really it that I can say for her. Very, very, very potent jungle. Again, expect to see that high health, high armor, high damage on her. Not really much else. Next, we've got Amumu, who we all know, we all love or hate, depending on which side he's on. If he's on your team, you love him. If he's, if he's on the opponent's team, you hate him. So, with him, we all know what to build Amumu with. Good chunk of health, armor, magic resist, and some AP does not go amiss on Amumu either. Stuff like an Abyssal Scepter is certainly a good item to get. Bar none, that's almost bare minimum you should get. And then after that you can kind of, see, alright, do you want to go for a Crystal Scepter? Maybe. It does help. It does help significantly with your Despair. So, keep that in mind. But, Despair and all of Mumu's abilities scale with AP. He does have, good health gain per level as well as, good AP scaling with his ability. So, again, that health and AP ratio they want to hit is pretty crucial. If you don't get that much AP, not a big deal. You're there to just be that meat shield and absorb the hits and be a disruptor in team fights. Next we have Blitzcrank. He's a support, generally played as a support, not really much else. It says tank and fighter, but 9 out of 10 times he will be the support or banned. If you're playing ranked, he probably won't even be in the game because he'll probably get banned outright. But if he is in the game and you do happen to pick him up, expect items such as standard support items, you know, he actually does deviate a lot from the traditional support. He actually can go ahead and get stuff like the Iceborne Gauntlets or Manamune, because they all help him and his passive. His passive, after he reaches a certain threshold on health, I believe it's 10% health, he gains a mana shield equaling 10% of his current mana. I could be wrong on that part, but I know after a certain extent, after, you know, a certain percentage of health that he hits, he actually gets a mana shield, and it does come in handy a whole lot to have just, you know, the extra amount of mana. So, you know, stuff like the Manamune is always a good choice, or Rod of Ages. You know, both of those, or if you don't go the Manamune, then you can go ahead and get, you know, the Archangel Staff. He does scale rather decently with AP. His ult to 1-to-1 ratio with AP, so it's rather good. You know, the Iceborne Gauntlet's good for when he goes ahead and knocks somebody up. You know, when they come back down, they're slowed. And oh look, it's, you know, nice big hey to, you know, to their faces, and just like, hi, you're dead. So, not much else to say on him. Other than that, standard support items. Now, Shyvana, Amumu, I want to say, I'll just combine them here. Say at least 2 bot games. I mean, Shyvana, because she takes a little while to get used to with her ult, and how it's not really, you know, time-based. It's just how quickly you can get that 100 Fury once you hit level 6. You know, every time you use your ult as Shyvana, you have to have 100 Fury to use it, and then after that, it drains your Fury all the way down to 0. Then once you hit 100 again, you can use your ult. It doesn't have a set timer, so yeah, with the Mumu, just to get the, you know, get used to bandage tossing. Blitzcrank, same idea as a Mumu, at least 2 to get the, you know, get used to hooks. Plain and simple. Next we have Fiddlesticks, who can be played support, can be played in the jungle, or mid, or top. Pretty much he's good all around any lane. Or any role, I should say. Other than ADC, obviously. But the items you could expect to see on Fiddlesticks would be an Abyssal Scepter. You know, regardless of whatever role he's in, he's probably going to get an Abyssal Scepter. Most likely going to get I want to say Zanya's, and maybe a Rabadon's. Standard kind of AP items on him. You know, you might see him deviate a little bit, but not too much. Again, that Zanya's is almost a guaranteed. Same thing with that Abyssal Scepter. But, you know, they did nerf his fear quite drastically, you know, at the later levels. So his level 1 fear does last a quarter second longer, but the last level is like almost a full second shorter than it used to be. So, yeah, it's not as devastating now. And again, he's mostly played jungle or support right now. Very, very rarely do you see him actually be played like in the middle. So, there you go. And with him, I would say 2 bot game, you know, at least one to just understand how your ult really works and the positioning you have to have for your ult to be beneficial. So yeah, that's really it. Jax, yeah, he can be played either top lane or in the jungle. You most likely see him build a good mixture of AP and AD, stuff like a Hextech Revolver does not go amiss on Jax at all. Same thing with a Ginsu's Rage Blade. Both of those are almost his bread and butter because he scales rather well with both. You know, you don't want to get one and, you know, disregard the other. You want to kind of have that good mix of both, as well as some health and magic resist, as, you know, you just want to have that overall good ball of, you know, goodness with Jax. Between health, armor, magic resist, you know, your defense is pretty much sum that up in health and magic resist as well as armor, and your AP and your AD, so your sources of damage and your sources of taking damage. You know, you want to have that good mix because you are going to be in that center of the team fight constantly. There's not going to be any point in time where you are not in the dead center taking a bunch of damage. So you need that health, you need the armor, you need everything. Now, when you do pop your ult as Jax, you actually do gain percentage of your attack damage and magic resist going to your armor and or magic resist respectively. So percentage of your AP goes into your magic resist, percentage of your AD goes into your armor. So it is rather nice. That's why you don't really see him build very hefty armor items or magic resist items. It's mostly when he gets his ult popped that he has that huge chunk of that armor and magic resist to help. But health items certainly don't go amiss on him, so expect again, Gintu's Rage Blade, maybe Warmogs, Hextech Gunblade, all that stuff. Expect to see on him, and I would say at least 2 bot games with him just to familiarize yourself with how his ult really works, because it does have that 2 components. Moving on though, Malzahar, very, very potent mid lane. I mean, in my opinion, one of the best because of how his Malefic Vision works. I believe it's Malefic Vision. His E. If he gets a kill with it, he gets a chunk of mana back, and if something dies with it on it, then it jumps to another target and continues to do that until the duration's done. As long as the target within range, but his whole kit, it just screams hey, oh my god, I'm gonna burst you down if you stand in my null zone. He's pretty beastly to play and to play against. Between his silence, again, his ult, just everything he has, it's a general good kit for him. You'd expect to see stuff like, again, the Rabadon's Death Cap, maybe a Void Staff, what else? Maybe a Zanya's. Zanya's would definitely help just, again, to kind of save your life if you're in that life or death situation. What else would be good on Malzahar? That's pretty standard. Crystal Scepter is good as well, just because it does, the null zone does affect, or is affected by that. So, or the slow component does get affected by null zone. Again, words difficult. But, yeah, overall, pretty good mid lane champion. I would say at least 1 bot game with him, at least. That's all you really need to understand how he works and what your ult can and can't do. Other than that, again, standard AP items such as the Void Staff, the Rabadon's Death Cap, maybe his Zanya's. Maybe see him go for something like an Athene's Unholy Grail, because that does not go amiss on him either. He is pretty mana, reliant, as is other AP champions, or a lot of other AP champions rather, but him more so than a lot of others because he doesn't really have a way of regenning mana. His mana regen base is pretty god-awful. So, invest in some sort of mana regen. Moving on though, next we have Brand, who's another good another good mid lane champion. Very, very, very rarely will you see him played any other role than, mid lane. But, yeah. Let's see. Pretty much if you've played Dota or Dota 2, think of him as a mix between Crystal Maiden and... who else? Crystal Maiden and Lich. Plain and simple. You're gonna see those AP items, just like I said for Malzahar on Brand. Go ahead and get that Rabadon's Death Cap, Zanya's. If you guys watch me play Brand the few times, you've seen me just kind of rush that Rabadon's, get Landry's Torment. That doesn't go miss on Malzahar either. So Landry's Torment, good on both Malzahar and Brand. Brand, you want a little more health than you would for... or both mid lanes, you kind of want some health, so kind of, want that Crystal Scepter, but you don't have to go for it if you don't want to. It's just what I'm recommending. But again, those standard AP items, Rabadon's, Zanya's, Landry's Torment, that's your bread and butter. I would say at least 2 bot games with him to understand how he can combo different, how his chain of combos works. Because he can go ahead and Pillar Flame into... stun into ult, into, immolate, stuff like that, or immolate into pillar, into stun, all of that stuff. So, just, I would say 2 bot games to understand the different combos you can do. On that, moving on, we've got Zyra, who's good at melee, don't know why I've got melee on my mind, but good in mid lane or good support. Support, you're going to see her just build pretty, standard support items. Get some APA mixed in there as well, just like you would with Blitzcrank. She does scale rather well, so Nothing is Unholy Grail wouldn't go amiss, or Rod of Ages doesn't go amiss on her. And, if she's being played in mid, Rabadon's Death Cap, Landry's Torment, all of that stuff, even if she's being played as support, Landry's Torment still can probably be on her. So, yeah, I would say at least 2 bot games with her to understand her different plants and how they all work. Moving on, though, next we've got Lucian, who you guys probably hate or love him by now. Same thing with Jinx. I'll just go over both of them because they're both almost identical, in terms of gameplay. You're going to see standard AD items on both of them. That means, Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge. For both of them, you might also see Static Shiv. Lucian probably more so on that one. Phantom Dancer doesn't go amiss on either one of them either. And my personal favorite on Lucian, as well as, almost any ADC, is the Black Cleaver. Just because it shreds that opponent's armor, percentage-wise, and then you could also get a Last Whisper to help on top of that for somebody like, say, Malphite, who's just stacking armor left, right, and center. So, again, pretty standard, AD items on them. You don't really, Lucian is pretty tough versus, say someone like Jinx in the health department. So Jinx, you want to get some sort of health in there. So Phage definitely goes good on both of them because of the extra movement speed when you're hitting people. And Lucian can actually benefit more from this than Jinx can. I would say for Lucian, go ahead and get maybe a Trinity Force. But Jinx, go ahead and get that Phage and keep a Phage. Instead of going for Trinity Force, go Phage, Phantom Dancer, and Frozen Mallet as Jinx. Lucian, you can get that Frozen Mallet, but the Trinity Force is also good too. So, they do deviate a little bit, but again, pretty standard, Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, and, kind of figure out what you need from there, play it by ear on what the enemy's going. So, yeah, for both of them, I would say at least 2 bot games, just to understand how Lucian's ult works, and to understand exactly how squishy Jinx is, because she has 0 ways of escaping. Other than that, they're both very, very, very potent ADCs. And, yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. If I left anything out, I'm sorry, but, yeah, I'm tired. My name has been Shadowswolm. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more content from me, go ahead and subscribe. And as always, I will talk to you all next time.